How to spot poker tells.
Hi, I'm John Young, the reigning World Strip Poker Champion. Here I'm going to talk to you about spotting tells. Tells are mannerisms and nuances in body language that can give you information about your opponent's cards. The stack glance. This is when a player looks at his cards and then immediately looks at his stack of chips and starts counting. This usually means he's got a very strong hand. You should be wary if taking him on. Only bet against him if you've got good cards. The revival. If your opponent has been slouched in his chair for a while and suddenly looks at his cards and perks up and sits up straight, this usually means he's suddenly hit some good cards after a run of bad cards, so always be careful. The showboat bet. If a player makes a big deal out of making a big bet, he could be hiding the fact that he has poor cards. However, he could also be making you think he's got poor cards and is actually holding a very good hand. If a player starts sitting around with his arms crossed and starts looking around the poker room or the room itself, he might be pretending that he's not interested in proceedings. In fact, he's obviously got a very good hand and he's just not trying to make it very obvious. If a player makes a heavy bet and then stares right at you intently with arms crossed, he could be trying to force you off a pot. However, he could also have very good cards and just wants to make sure that he's going to win the pot. Next, the storyteller. If you've got a particularly chatty player at the table who keeps on talking and suddenly after looking at his cards stops talking, he's obviously hit a very good hand and he wants to concentrate. So be careful when betting against him. The eyes. The eyes can provide vital information about your opponent's cards. If his eyes widen, this usually means he's got a good hand. This is why some players always wear visors or shades to stop you giving that information. As well as looking at the eyes for tells, looking at your opponent's hands also gives you vital information about their cards, especially if he's betting big. This could mean he's got a very good hand and he's showing it by his hands shaking. Looking at your cards post-flop. If your opponent does this, he's usually reminding himself what hand he's got. Perhaps he's going for that fifth heart to make his flush, or maybe he's looking for that seven to make his straight. So be wary when betting against him. Betting patterns. Always keep an eye on what your players are doing during a game, even if you're not in a hand. For example, if a player keeps betting the same amount every hand, usually he's just betting on whatever he's got. So re-raise to make him fold. This usually works. If a player is sitting tight, folding and betting not much money on every hand, and suddenly out of nowhere bets a huge bet, you know he's betting on premium hands and you know not to play against him. Chip stacking. The way certain players stack their chips can give information about how they play the game. A loose player will sometimes just have a big pile of chips. A tight player might stack them quite neatly. Also look out for players counting their chips. They might be ready for a big move, or maybe an all-in. Looking out for heartbeats. As well as looking at the eyes and the hands, looking at a player's chest can give you good information on what they've got. If their chest goes up and down fast, you know they've hit a good hand. Greg Raymer won the World Series of Poker in 2004 by looking at people's heartbeats. He wasn't even looking at their eyes.